Hey, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk about real estate investing. Today, we're excited. We have Troy and Lisa on. We met them on and off about a year and a half ago. We're in, a couple of investor groups together. And I think it's about 3 months ago, Lisa reached out to Leanne and, they started sharing some ideas going back and forth and, networking and, again, that power of, hey, what are you doing? What are we doing? What's this person doing? And talking. And that's kind of what we do best is networking and meeting other people and talking about their power team. So we got talking the other day. You guys are launching an exciting new venture. Creating a new group. So we thought we would have you guys on and talk about that.
Yeah. So like Mike said, Lisa and I connected a couple months, or I don't know. Time flies, really it does. So we connected
a ways back.
Few days back. And then, here we are. And so let's get started. Troy and Lisa, tell us about yourself and what your real estate journey looks like right now.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having us. We're really grateful to be here and so glad to have connected with you. We have had a journey of over 11 years now of investing in real estate. And it started with we call it like our accidental rental property. And for that, we stayed at having one rental, a few different ones, but just one at a time for about 6 years. And it wasn't really until the last 5 years that we decided to start scaling and start getting into multifamily. And since that time, we went in the last 2 years, we've gone from 9 doors to 55 doors and counting all the way across Canada. We've done rent to own, we've done short-term rentals, we've done house hacking. And after all that, we've now, I feel like as good as settled as we can be on multifamily residential as being our favorite, our strategy, our go-to right now.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
In how many years was that?
It's been 11 years of, going from like the accidental rental property. But the last 2 have really been the accelerator. We started out 2020 with 9 doors and then now, 2 years later have 55. So that's
incredible.
Troy's been very busy.
No, and that sounds a lot like mine and Steff's backstory, right? This is our 11th year. We started in 2011. And then we picked up 9 doors kind of really quickly, just kind of as we'll figure it out later, but we know that this is a really good idea. And then we really didn't do much with it for that first 5 or 6 years. And it's just been in the last kind of 3 or 4 that we've really kind of scaled and grown and figured out that this is now a lifestyle, right? And we've kind of turned it into a business. And it's funny how you can start off and really not know what you're doing, but still it lays a really great foundation for where you want to get to when you finally figure it out down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Our journey sounded very similar. And one of the things that we talk about is like, we wish we'd had more intention. We wish we'd known what we were doing 11 years ago.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine where we'd all be now if we knew what we know now back then?
Yes. We'd all be with Mike and Leanne in Florida.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, our journey hasn't been that long, but, we made some really good moves in the last couple of years and, kind of got laser focused and, took a dive into Florida. So a question for you guys. So there's a lot of talk of, real estate being a great, passive way to make money. What are certain common, misconceptions about, real estate income and, actually what it is?
Our intention has always been to make it as passive as possible. But I mean, the reality is that it can become another job, right? And that's not what we intended for it to be. So we've really tried to structure all of our deals to make sure that we include property management. We don't self-manage anything. Not to say there's anything wrong with that. It's just, how we've tried to deleverage our time to, expand. And it's really as passive as you make it. However, as you kind of build in the systems and the teams necessary to take away that work for you, you also kind of incur more expense. So your profitability decreases with your passivity increasing. So another thing that we've encountered is stabilized buildings, which are a lot more expensive, are a lot more easier to manage, but but also there, the cost is you pay more upfront. So we've kind of gone with the BRRRR strategy in multifamily that has allowed us to add value, but it's more work. So I think there's a lot of, misconception maybe that it's a completely passive business, but until you kind of get them turned over and stabilized, the buildings, it is more work.
For sure. And what we've discovered, and I know Mike and Leanne and I have talked about this, and Steff when he's with us, it's like you trade time for money, right? So either you have a building that isn't stabilized, that doesn't really click along on its own yet, and that's taking all of your time, or you've got somebody else taking care of it and it's taking some of your money. So you really, at the beginning, especially if you're into a project where you're trying to kind of create that value and push it up so you can refinance it and take the money out, that's just the way that it leverages, right? It's kind of one or the other at the end. And a lot of people think that, oh my gosh, you have 4 units, you must just be swimming in money every month. And we all know that that's not the case. And there aren't really very many months where you're swimming in money, whether you're passive or not passive. But like you guys, at the very beginning, we decided we wanted to be investors. We didn't want to be landlords, because landlording is an entirely different game than just investing. As much as investing takes your time and your energy, not that there's anything wrong with self-managing, and there's a lot of people that do it and are really great at it, but we knew that that wasn't something we wanted to do, and we didn't want to kind of engage in that piece. And so building that part of your system into your team, or that part of the team into your system, is for us very important, right? Because we knew that we weren't going to be hands-on having those conversations, dealing with the broken toilets and the tenants that don't like each other and all of those kinds of things.
Exactly.
Yeah, right on. Okay, so the next question, what did the learning curve look like going from 1 to 9 and then 22 to 50? Because those are 2 very distinct brackets, right? And there's very different things happening in each of those spots, right? 1 to 9, you're kind of figuring it out, you're learning, you're building your systems, you're kind of creating your team. 9 to 22, you've kind of got your feet wet, I think. And then, and what did that look like for you guys?
So I think the first one, as Lisa mentioned earlier, was really kind of accidental. So we weren't really intending, we didn't know where it was going to go, where it was going to take us. And over time, as we, then acquired a duplex, and then, did a couple of rent to own deals in there. And then we actually got into one of our larger, at the time, multifamily buildings, which was 6 units. I think we were both almost stunned when we had purchased it. Like, what do we do now? So that's what it got us to 9. And I think it was really figuring out what it takes to run it, and what systems do you need, and how can you deleverage your time so that you're not doing all of those toilets and tenants and
all the time,
all the things. So it was interviewing, trying, failing with different property managers, what to look for in property managers, what to look for in contractors, all sorts of really good learning moments throughout that.
For sure. And we've all got our stories, right? So in that respect, to kind of stay on that point, what do you wish you would have known back then that you know now? Because now I'm sure you're saving a ton of time compared to what you did at the beginning. Like all of us, as you learn and grow, you become more efficient. So what's your piece that you wish you would have known back then?
I think the biggest thing would have been map out what we want to do. Like, what's the end game here? I think we were a little bit aimless in what we were doing and what we were buying, and therefore where we were buying it, and what metrics were we looking at? Were we looking at any metrics? In some cases, not necessarily. So I think it was really figuring out what we wanted and how to get there. So that's what I would say it would be. One, I would say getting mentors sooner. I mean, experience is one of those things that you pay for no matter what. You pay for it with forging your own trail, or you pay for it by paying someone to teach you. And I think we definitely could have accelerated things a lot quicker and been retired by now if we had chosen to invest in some mentorship 11 years ago.
Well, it sounds like you're well on your way. So whatever held you up at the beginning, it sounds like you've definitely made up for it, and you guys are just kind of cruising now.
Well, one thing I want to touch on too is also mindset. So Troy talked a lot about like the systems and the processes, and that's all. I think that's really important. Having a goal, like that's the number one thing we tell people when they're like, "Well, how do I get started?" Or "Is this a good property?" I'm like, "What is your goal? What are you trying to achieve here?" So those things are important. But I also think mindset was a big one, because I think we had fear of like even buying our first duplex was like, oh my goodness, now like 2 doors, and what's this going to look like? And what if the tenants don't like each other? And it was just the next level. And then the same thing with the 6 unit. The 6 unit was like, okay, now there's 6 doors, and now there's 8 doors all in one city. And what is that like? And the roof is bigger, and the problems are just different. And I think we definitely felt a bit scared. And I'll give you this example in terms of like mindset. I felt like we tripped over dollars to pick up pennies. We actually stayed away at the time from commercial mortgages and commercial, like the bigger multifamily, because, and it's embarrassing to say, but I feel like it's important to share. I know I think you probably felt the same way. I didn't want to pay a higher interest rate on a commercial mortgage versus a residential. So I was like, oh, I don't want to pay an extra 1%. So let's just stay small and stay in this, in the duplex, triplex kind of scene. And what I realized and what we know now is, oh my goodness, like there's just the whole world opens up when you look at commercial financing. Yes, it's more expensive, but also how much you can purchase, the number is infinite, and the way that you can refinance it is completely different. And like those are big hurdles. So I think the learning curve was a lot of systems and trial and error and that, but it was also a lot of mindset and a lot of getting out of our own way for the fear, and also realizing that it's okay to spend more money as long as you're still going to make more money. And that like you have to look at that as an equation, as opposed to just, well, this is more expensive, therefore let's not do it.
And I think that's important, because Mike and I did the same thing, but you're saying interest rates. We ended up buying our first fourplex, and that was our first purchase. And then we took equity out of our home, down payment, everything was good. And then we said, holy man, this is awesome. We want to do it again. But our mortgage, we weren't mortgage agents at the time. Our mortgage agent at the time put us back into a fixed product. So when we said, let's do it again, the house was in a fixed product again. And then all of a sudden they're like, ooh, it's going to cost you $18,000 to get out of that mortgage to break it. And right away, we're like, oh, no, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Nope, don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Not realizing you probably could have had access to $50,000 or $60,000, right? Like, you know what I mean? And it ratios out. Like you said, you spend more, but if it's going to kick back more at the end, then it ratios itself out, and it makes sense.
I mean, we lost out on a building, and what would the building have done? And I mean, in all honesty, that $18,000 could have been paid off by the rental property in a year
14,
or two,
15
right?
months, right?
So it's like, but not having that mindset.
It's a big thing. It really does matter.
And I think we've all been caught in that fixed mortgage penalty, party where we've had, I think the last fixed mortgage, and I'm sure it's the last one we will ever do, but I think it was like $15,000 was our penalty on that one. But there was so much equity in that building, like we could pull out almost 100. So that 15, it kind of came out in the wash, and it didn't even really matter.
So you said, a lot of people would go to 9 doors and be very comfortable with, wow, we got 9 doors. That's good. We're it's enough for us. So what was the pivotal, why did you say, okay, 9 is not enough for us, we want to go higher? Like, what was that motivation, and why did you want to do that?
I think at that time, that's when we sat down and figured out what we wanted and why we wanted it. And so I guess a bit of backstory on me. I work away 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. I work a rotational schedule. So I'm gone for 2 weeks at a time. I work 84 hours a week while I'm gone, and like 12-hour days. So it's eventually we want me to not have to work away to be able to afford our lifestyle. And that was our goal. So then we broke down, that's the why. And then the how is we need more doors and we need cash flow. So we actually switched markets that we purchase in. We went across Canada, and we primarily now invest in New Brunswick, and we've found the cash flow out there. It's getting harder to find, but it can still be done. And we've we, I guess, figured ourselves out enough to scale why we wanted to do it, and then it was just a matter of doing it. So COVID kind of hit in that 2020 time frame, and I think, as I say now, when life hands you COVID, build an empire. So
Yeah.
Well, and I think we all really did a great job of taking advantage of that pandemic, right? Because we all really scaled and grew over the last 2 years. And I know that we moved part of our portfolio into New Brunswick, which is wonderful, and the cash flow out there. I mean, at the time you couldn't beat it, and the price points you couldn't find that in any other market that we were looking in, anyways. So it made for a great in and a great market that offered a lot. And you know what, we love it, and we love the cash flow of it. We're happy to let a property manager take care of it over there, and then kind of try to manage the manager piece. And now, you know what, becoming familiar with different markets, because there's even better cash flow than what's out east that we're finding now, which creates all kinds of options and opportunities.
Yeah.
Troy, you mentioned, you're still working. What's the reality of the real estate investing that, most people don't know? And like, what does the day-to-day and the week-to-week look like for you guys?
I think that's a great, question that I think a lot of people have the misconception that you buy a property and then the money just keeps rolling in. It's, like
showering, right?
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, someone
falls all over you.
I have a fourplex. You must be showering in money. And that's really not the case in my experience. Anyway, so it is a lot of work. I work 84 hours, and it's usually actually probably closer to 90 hours a week at a full-time job while I'm away. And I still usually work kind of 1, maybe 2 hours a day after work on our personal business, on our real estate. And then when I'm home, I probably work, when I'm supposed to be off and not working, I work probably 30 to 40 hours a week. So
easily. With that many doors and that much to keep your eye on, that's definitely going to take some time.
Well, and a lot of what we do is BRRRRs. So it's a lot of sourcing the deals, financing them, dealing or doing the due diligence on it, managing the managers, as you alluded to there, Jen, and refinancing and taxes and bookkeeping and accounting.
Yep.
There's a lot that goes into kind of the behind the scenes stuff, the really boring and
for sure. But that back end stuff, that's what stabilizes you, right? Because if that stuff isn't done properly and you're not holding everything accountable and organized, then your front end falls apart. Right now, all of a sudden, there won't be that refinance, or there won't be that money to come in and do the reno. There won't be any of those things if you're not doing that piece on the back. And it's tough to find balance sometimes, for sure, especially when you're working so many hours and you're away from your family. And I get it. Like, we were a double shift work family as we kind of started on this journey. And it was crazy back when our kids were small, and now there's new perspective, right? And there's new priorities. So it kind of gets easier for us anyways, as we go, as our kids get older. It's easier to kind of dedicate that time and now bring them into it, to let them kind of be a part of things, which is another aspect of it. But it's still that accountability piece that you need to stay organized, because if you don't, then the stuff that needs to happen to make the money and grow the portfolio doesn't happen.
Well, I was gonna say, Troy spoke a lot to like the kind of grindy stuff behind the scenes, but one of the things that has really helped us grow in the last couple of years is the concept of other people's money and working with private lenders. So that was a new thing for us. We didn't know that was what that was like. We'd always heard of people having 100 doors, but had no idea how you'd ever get there. It was like we were so curious.
Really, who has that kind of down payment money sitting in an account? Right?
I mean, I was always like, and I've always had this idea when I see other people that have something that I want. I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but I felt like when I grew up and I saw those things, my family would or like people around me, teachers would just be like, yeah, well, like that's them, like that's not possible for you, or like kind of say things like that. And I just always remember having this like feeling inside me, like, well, if they have it, then like I can like, what did they do? And just a real curiosity. And so I always had this curiosity of like, how do people have 100 doors? Like they're somehow doing it. And I knew they weren't all people that just grew up with a ton of money. So OPM really opened that up for us to be like, this is a way to do it. Mm-hmm. And so, just one more piece there in terms of like what do the day-to-day and week-to-week look like. Attracting investors is a whole other role as well, right? And then meeting with investors and finding win-wins and creating contracts and sending interest payments and communicating updates, because some of our investors like to know what's happening with this, and just keeping them up to date. So that is kind of a whole other body of work that's really only come out in the last year and a bit. But
well, that was my next question. So because we've all kind of played the OPM game, and that's what's kind of helped all of us kind of grow and scale in the last couple of years. So at what point did you guys start, like, what was your first OPM deal? What did that look like?
It was, well, I mean, we sort of, before OPM was a term in our vocabulary, and before we, Bigger Pockets was huge, and before we had joined a mentorship specifically to learn about it, I guess we sort of stumbled upon that as well. So even on our first duplex purchase, we leveraged equity from our home to use as a down payment. And that was sort of our strategy, was to always never have any of our money into a property. And then from there, our curiosity, I think, grew, and then we've joined a mentorship program to
I think our first
more.
A deal where we kind of got somebody on board was probably Cedar King Rock Street.
But as far as a private lender, yes, was probably
just a year and a bit ago.
Year and a half ago maybe, that we got under contract, and then used private funds to purchase it. It was in a state of disrepair, I'll say, and required it was about $130,000 in renovations, exterior work, roof, windows, doors. There's a hole through the exterior wall, plus all the fun stuff, plumbing, electrical. So it was a 5-unit building.
Like it's a full party.
It's a 5-unit building that we turned over. It's actually really, really nice now, but wasn't at the time. So traditional A lenders don't want
anything to do with those, right?
Yeah.
No, and we've all been there. And we too had a project like that. And ours went wrong in 100 different ways. Like, it took too long. We spent way too much money, because once you really get into that big of a project, you really, like, there's no end to, like, you have to kind of tear it all apart to be able to put it all back together the right way. But that's turned into one of the best pieces of our portfolio. Right. And now it's stabilized. There's a great tenant in there. We've got above market level rents coming in, and it just kind of clicks along on its own, and it requires very little brain power. And that's exactly kind of what we try to do with projects that are like that. So, and you're right, A lenders don't want anything to do with you when there's a project like that.
No, definitely.
So this sounds really, like, for our listeners now, it sounds really hard, discouraging. There's lots of work, lots of hours, lots of everything. Wow, I'm in real estate. But why did you do it, and why is it worth it?
For us, it's I think about the long-term gain. It's not like a get rich quick scheme. We're in it for the long haul, so we understand that the equity that you're buying your tenants are helping you to buy every year or pay down your mortgage. There's cash flow that we have monthly in it, and I can't think of a piece of property that I've ever looked at that 20 years down the road I haven't said, man, I wish I didn't buy that. So,
right.
I think for us it's about the long-term gain, and it's just a legacy that we want to pass on to our daughter, and then we want the long-term freedom. I think too, the time freedom. It's a lot of work now, but I think no matter what, if you want to work till you're 60 or 70, you could do that, or you can put the hours in now, hopefully retire when you're still young enough to enjoy your life, still have your health. And that's really what I'm going for anyway. I don't know about her.
Yeah, for me, it's all of that, and wanting you home, like wanting to be able to spend more time together, and just have some freedom, time, location freedom. And I think real estate, and we also have a lot of fun with it. Like we should also say, like, we are kind of real estate nerds that, we went on a date night last night, and it was more like a business meeting than a date night. I was like, we should definitely write this off. But like, we actually really do just enjoy talking about it and looking at pictures and looking at properties. And, we live downtown Vancouver, and we walk through the city, and it's like, oh, have you heard about this building going up? And look at this, how that's going. And like, every time we travel somewhere, we find it really interesting. So I think it's really cool to have that hobby together and to have that passion. And anywhere you go in the world, there's always real estate. So it's really cool to like learn about different markets. And I just find it really interesting. So it's definitely like fun right now. I mean, like there's a lot of boring stuff for sure. But we're having a lot of fun with it. And the long term is, I think, going to be really amazing.
And that's where Mike and I are in Florida in our newly purchased vacation rental home, which is great. And we've actually connected with 2 investors now.
First 3 days that we were here.
Yeah. But because they were in town, and Zeb was our first guest because he ended up closing on a property. They didn't sign till after 5, so he didn't get the keys till Monday. So Mike said, we got 6 bedrooms. Come on over.
Yeah.
And then yesterday I had connected before we had come, so a few weeks ago, with another real estate investor who is starting journey in Florida. And just so happened that she was down here on a course, and I said, come on by. So her and her partner came by. And then we geeked out and talked about real estate again. And then later this week, we got 2 more meetups. So it's fantastic, and it's all real estate people, and we just love it.
Yeah, and
I think we're all real estate nerds that way, right? Like you get us together. I know we've visited with Mike and Leanne numerous times over the last year, and every time it's always real estate and where we've been and where we're going and what we think could be a great idea and the brainstorming, and it's just always such a great feeling.
Yeah, and can you imagine, like, when you talk about being a team and being on board with it, both of you. Like if we got down there and I said to Leanne, oh, by the way, Zeb didn't get his keys. He's staying in a hotel. I invited him over for 2 days to stay at our house. She'd be like, what do you mean? We met that guy once. Like, what I mean? We met him at a real estate when we were down at bus tour, right? And we really connected with him and called him and his wife. And so she was like, yeah, we can't wait to have him over, right? But so it's so important, to be like-minded. So question for you guys. So, what systems, have you put in place and actions you're taking, to help grow your real estate business and to help make it easier?
You can go ahead.
Well, the big one I think is property managers. So we kind of alluded to that earlier, but that's one that really takes away a lot of work for you and gives you your time back. We try and have a great team on the ground working for us. So that's, everything from realtors to insurance brokers to mortgage brokers or lenders that we work with. We try and automate everything, whether it's searches for real estate on different platforms or even bookkeeping. A lot of people, I think, still use like a spreadsheet or something to try and enter their expenses manually, and they don't want to pay for a program to do it, but you can leverage any number of the online bookkeeping platforms. We use QuickBooks personally, but there's others out there to automatically add your expenses. It knows different, vendors and can take that work away from you. And then I think learning from others. So I think it's time again that if you can learn it yourself and you can probably figure it out and you can, learn the hard way, I guess, or you can pay. So we've really tried to leverage other people's knowledge as well as other people's money to accelerate our business in real estate.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point that you just touched on. And I know that Steff loves to talk about that when he's with us, is being able to leverage other people's knowledge. And we try really hard to surround ourselves with people who are smarter than we are at what we're trying to learn, because that's how you learn how to do it properly, right? So that's, I think, a really important point to kind of put out there is that that's what's going to help you leverage your knowledge, is surrounding yourself and building your team with people who are better at things than you are, at least at the beginning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
I think too, maybe counterintuitive and pros and cons, things that I think have also helped us to make this easier. Different people have different perspectives on this, but I think for us, like Troy keeping his day job has actually made things easier in some ways. It's allowed us to keep money in the business and continue to reinvest that money. I think, I don't know, it keeps us in the game a little differently. Gives him, when you're home, you have all this time to do bookkeeping. But I think it's actually worked for us. And networking and all that is still in your job. And then also we do have some pretty ambitious goals, but we've given ourselves probably a longer time frame than what we could go with, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, but I think it's worked for us because when it comes to real estate, I think quality really does matter. And I think it can be very tempting to just kind of buy anything, especially the last 2 years. There's been this real frenzy in Canada to just buy something and just get in the market. And you know what? Maybe we'll wish we'd bought everything we looked at in the last 2 years, but knowing our goal to be to create cash flow, we've had to be really intentional about what we buy. And sometimes there is, a few months that goes by without anything. And I think if we'd had a very short time frame, we maybe would have felt pressured to buy things that didn't necessarily align with our goal, or it may have taken us off track, or it may not have made as much money. So I think having a longer time frame has given us the ability to focus on quality, taken some pressure off, and given us more room for learning, for making definitely we're still making mistakes. Don't think that because I've said we have longer time that now we're not making mistakes. We're still making them, but they're not kicking us back on our time frame because we've kind of built in, we've got this time to make the mistakes, and we know they're going to happen. And so we don't feel discouraged when they happen. Instead, we're like, all right, we learned that was great. Not do that again, and let's go do something different.
Kind of pocket that knowledge and leave it in there for the next time you're in a similar situation and that's not what you do.
Yeah, and share it with everybody we know so no one else does the same thing.
Don't do this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
this.
those are some counterintuitive things that maybe you wouldn't think that would be helpful, but for us, we've found them really helpful.
Right on. So what are you guys working on now? What projects do you have in the pipe, if you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah, so we are in the midst of several different projects similar to the one we talked about earlier, but we have one building that was fire damaged, and when we purchased it, so we're getting that one back in order. Hopefully should be done in the next 3 months or so. Another commercial mixed use commercial residential building we purchased that is a new sort of venture for us. We're actually going to be putting some self-storage into it.
Nice.
So that's in progress. And then actually we just got another building under contract last week. So we're doing the due diligence on that, which is basically done, but we'll be, working with our private investors to close that one. And it's,
and now are all of these still in New Brunswick? Is that your market of focus still, or are you looking anywhere else yet? Or you're still comfortable there?
Yeah, I think we're still comfortable there. I think that's part of what we're working on next too, is also looking at other markets. So we're interested in, and we've again purchased another mentorship program to start learning about the US and investing in there, specifically as Canadians investing in the US.
Right on. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's a big, I think probably this week we're going to start diving into that in our spare time. And then I would also say just growing community. It's so important to have community. So we just started a Facebook group. We've been hosting networking events here in Vancouver, which has been really fun over the last 6 months, but we just kept getting people being like, what else are you going to do? I want to join, but they're all over the country. And so, we're starting to do some virtual networking and just bringing people together in community and hopefully sharing some, real stories and learning from each other and going there. So I think that part, the last 2 years, it's been great for building the empire, but I don't know about you guys, but I feel like our community has been kind of destroyed in some other ways. So that's another important thing, I think, is to kind of rebuild that and do the networking events, have our group, I have a podcast as well that, we've put out some content on that. Hopefully we'll continue to do that just to share knowledge and be with, I don't know, I miss people. I'm an extrovert. I'm like, bring me on people. I miss you.
I know, that's amazing. I think that's really amazing. I think you guys have a wonderful backstory, and I love the energy and I love the thought process. And you two both seem to have a really strong mindset with where you are and where you want to be and how to get there. So I know a lot of people are going to listen to this and are going to be inspired, and they're going to think that this is just a great bit of information that you guys are sharing, for sure.
Take us to the lightning round.
Yep, that's what I'm looking for now. So lightning round. So I'm not the lightning round expert, but these are just quick questions. This is a Leanne thing. But so really quick questions, no real thought process, like whatever comes into your head, just put out there, remembering that there might be, I don't know, kids under 18 listening. So if I gave you $1 million today, what would you do with it?
I would invest it in a large multifamily building. I'd definitely find a project that you had to buy it with cash, or use it as a down payment and finance the rest.
Okay. Oh, there was another part to that question that my phone cut off when I took a screenshot. So, okay. So I gave you $1 million, and that's great. We would all buy a big multifamily building, I think, with it if we had it. But if you had to pick between a $500,000 annual career or 100 doors, which would you choose?
100 doors.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lisa, you're silent there. She's thinking.
Well, I want to know how much the 100 doors are cash flowing.
Yeah.
See?
Because I think it's really easy. I'm a goal coach. So like, I like break things down. I'm like, why do you want the 100 doors? Like what, there's a big difference between wanting 100 doors because of what the 100 doors gives you versus just like, I have 100 doors to say I have 100 doors and tell people I have 100 doors and feel like I've gotten that thing. So I would be just curious about what the cash flow on that is.
It's a lightning round.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Take 100.
It's funny you said that too, because we were talking with Jen just the other day, and I think she talked with somebody and he said a big thing in Southern Ontario right now is people are excited if they can negative cash flow $400 on a property, then that's a good deal right now in Southern Ontario. So you think 100 doors at negative $400, it's
Yeah.
I don't want those ones. I don't want those
No,
ones.
No, and most of us don't. And again, but there's so many people that are buying them. And I would really love to have them on the podcast.
Yeah.
Just kind of say, can you explain it to me? Like, because I feel like I'm missing a big piece of something here.
So if you had no money restrictions, where would you be right now?
I definitely have a place in New York. I love New York City. I love the energy of the city. I'd still have a place in Vancouver because I love like the nature, and Vancouver's just stunning. And then we talk about this a lot. I talk about this a lot. I don't like vacation. I don't know. I love traveling. I love trying new places, but Greece is a favorite. My family's in Croatia. I don't know. You probably want to do like something in Mexico or Costa Rica.
In the Caribbean, I think somewhere. I don't know quite where, but yeah, that's probably.
I like trying different things. So yeah, you might stay in the Caribbean while I go to New York, but that'd be all right.
So here's another one. What is your favorite TV series?
It's kind of a hard question because we don't watch TV.
I was like, you guys look kind of confused. Are there so many to pick from? You just don't know. What are you guys watching?
No,
Your favorite podcast?
We cut the cord on cable like 10 years ago, but
Anything on a streaming service?
I love Sex in the City. Probably the New York thing again. I watched that and I can watch it again and again.
Yeah, it never gets old. True
it
story.
does. There's some things that definitely are like, oh yeah, this was definitely 20 years ago, but it's still fun. So I do like Sex in the City.
I guess if we're going old school HBO, I'll say The Sopranos.
There you go. There you go.
Both great shows.
Yeah.
Okay, so for your next go round, so not talking about any of the projects that you're doing right now or preparing to do right now, your next one, short-term rental or long-term rental?
Long.
Depends on the location. If it was a cool location, I'd be open to a short-term rental, kind of like what Mike and Leanne are doing. And then you get to go, check on the property and do the due diligence. And
And expense it all.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just reasonable expenses is all we're saying.
Reasonable, yeah.
And last but not least, do you reward yourself or when you have successes in the real estate world? So when you close on a property, when you anything, do you reward yourselves, and how do you do it?
So I would say yes, because Lisa mandates that we do.
Yeah.
I
Love it.
I think I'm wired differently, where we're just like, we'll close on a property, and she's like, oh, we should celebrate. I'm like, there's so much more to do. Let's
Yeah.
There's no
Let's
time.
not celebrate.
That just starts the list.
Yes. So I think we try to, and I think it's important to celebrate them, but sometimes it's more of just like have a bottle of wine or something versus, planning a vacation or a dinner or something too elaborate. But yeah, I think we try to.
Fair enough.
I think we could do better the last little while. We've kind of fallen off the wagon. We used to be really good about going out for dinner, but when we bought like 7 properties in a year, we just kind of fell off. So I'd like to get back to it, and I also would like a vacation. Have that be heard for all. Like, a vacation would be lovely as well. I think we do need to like rest as well.
Definitely, and there needs to be a balance, right?
Yes, so important.
And COVID made it hard, so it was hard to do things as well. So now people stopped doing things because going out for supper was a difficult thing, but now everything's more back to normal. So,
Yeah, so all of those normal rituals that you usually would have done to celebrate any kind of occasion can kind of come back now. Like I know for us, COVID, it was way easier to just buy properties, less easy to travel and see them and celebrate those kinds of accomplishments. So now hopefully we'll find a little bit more balance that way, because being able to rest and celebrate your successes is really important. And we're all doing this to kind of find that freedom, right? That time freedom, that location freedom, that financial freedom. And having all of those kinds of freedoms usually means not working quite so hard. So that's really important stuff too. But that brings us really to the end. So really, I love your story. I can't thank you guys enough for joining us today. Guaranteed there are going to be a ton of people that are going to see this who are going to want to know where they can find you and reach out to you if that's something that you're comfortable doing and kind of having those conversations with people who want to know more. Is there anywhere where we can find you?
We're happy to chat with people and connect. We're looking to just build more intentional investors and community. So we are on most of the platforms. So we have a Facebook group. We also have a Facebook page. You can follow us also on Instagram. We have a page called Michaud Investments. And then I have my own Instagram at the Lisa Michaud. And we're just working on a website. We didn't mention that as a project, but also in our spare time.
One more thing in the mix, right?
Yeah, exactly. But maybe I'll give you a link. You can pop it in the show notes, and maybe by the time this airs, there'll be something there.
Yeah. So you know what? I think that's wonderful. And again, thank you so much. You guys have been so much fun to listen to and to connect with and have conversations with. Mike, Leanne, anything from you guys?
I always say thanks for keeping it real.
Yes, that's Mike's little send off for sure. Yeah, and he's 100% right. Thank you for keeping it real and for being part of our little podcast and our little way of kind of connecting and putting some good information out there. And always happy to share. And I'm thankful that we had this opportunity. And I'm gonna look you guys up on all the platforms and link in with you later. And kind of I'm really excited to see where you go from here. So if that's it, then thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing the release and the response that we get from it. So have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Guys.